Hi, everybody. This is 1,141 days today since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. I'm going to go on to the Facebook to see if we're burning the midnight oil again tonight because there's so much happening in Richard's case because it's just that big and we are very appreciative that everybody has stayed with us, that new people have come in. And it's very difficult when you're coming in at this point because this case is so big at comprising of morsel after morsel after morsel after morsel that we can digest it, that we can understand the level of conspiracy, the level of collaboration, the level of crimes, the level of in many different fronts, and the level of cover up in many different fronts, and why it would require millions and millions of dollars of funding, why they would even fund it with millions and millions of dollars. Um, it's very hard to wrap your head around. And, I think about 3 years ago, we had no idea that this was going on. I don't even know. I think that's why Richard told us, I'll talk about anything, but just not the Army. Matter of fact, Rob and I, we were talking about Richard's case and the arrests in July 2020, and we believe that those arrests that that happened that we got news, we got intel that arrests were going on in July 2020, and we think it was at the beginning of 2020, and it really made people upset because it was because of Richard's reporting, Richard's whistleblowing. Um, they don't like oversight. They don't like whistleblowers. You can tell that they don't like whistleblowers because they didn't offer him any protection. We believe that's why there was a code red to organize, to plan, to do an op-ord, uh, a premeditated murder of Richard. We believe that at this point with the morsels and morsels and morsels. Now, for the new person coming in, they hear that they're like, "What? Our government wouldn't do that," and they haven't heard about Leilani Hart, right? They haven't heard about Leilani Hart. They haven't heard about um, that whole situation, and it gets even better. And I'll talk a little bit about Leilani Hart because it's it is well, things are looking like the tide has changed, right? Um, Something is happening because when she had institutional support, she felt brazen. Um, she could say to people, she could brag to people, I'm controlling CID. It's almost like she was a CID intern, inside there or whatever. Um, but we know that she was having an affair with the CID special agent Tavita Nusa. We know that. And we've even asked the El Paso Police Department, who we believe we were told received a complaint about Leilani Hart, received probably many complaints about Leilani Hart. We don't know. They need to answer us. Um, but she seems to have institutional support. But I think that's changing because today we got two messages added on to the message that we just received 2 days ago that an agency was looking into Leilani Hart. And now we have two more agencies to, so the tide is changing where once the institutional support was there protecting a convicted criminal. And you heard me right. If you're just coming in, Leilani Hart is a convicted criminal. And the CID didn't tell us that, didn't tell us that she was accessing um, the files, even though she wasn't authorized to access files, but she was having an affair with Special Agent Tavita Nusa. Um, so there's so many conflicts of interest there. And why would she want Richard's file? And why would she file a notarized criminal complaint affidavit um, on the 22nd of July, 2020? You see, um, we believe that these arrests that happened and the call to retaliate against Richard all happened in that beginning of July. And so, because it does take a few days to put together a notarized criminal complaint affidavit, it seemed to be in a little bit of a rush, but she had it notarized on the 22nd of July, 2020. So I don't know if she was trying to get that institutional support as a whistleblower, because that's what that is. It's a confession. But in that confession, she admits to committing crimes herself with not reporting in a timely manner and the possession of child pornography and more and more. And so, just having a son that is in an incestuous relationship as a military officer right there on Fort Bliss, having illegal weapons, being in possession of illegal weapons, which we're in the process of determining where those come from, which is really interesting, um, because this is so big, morsel by morsel. It will make your head spin if you're coming in, but stick with us. Stick with us because our service members depend on you. They really do. There's something going on in the military where things have just clogged up. Things are just botched. Our son's investigation is so botched that I want to make sure I'm on here. Yeah, there I am. Yeah. Our our son's case is so botched. And the really sad news about that is that it's not the only one. So many of the cases are botched. And if you talk to family members, you might say, oh, they're over exaggerating, whatever, a couple families here or whatever. But every family that we have talked to, every family, I haven't heard one family say, yes, we got justice. Yes, we feel like we got justice and that the system really worked well. And no, they all say what is going on. Somebody is being protected. And, they all feel like their cases um, are not being handled properly. And I can tell you right now with Richard's case, just the leaks, and now we have Operation Lone Star, where the judge has told Governor Abbott that no, he can't do what he wants to do, which led to leaks in this CW2 hack who seems to be connected to the CID there on Fort Bliss, leaking files, um, and then therefore seems to be connected to Richard's case, which is all leaked files. Or, we put in a criminal complaint against um, the special agent Marlon Soto because of our son's botched case, because we had leaked files. We said it from the very beginning that our son's case was leaked, and you know, Leilani Hart was uh, getting information from the CID through these leaked files that she was apparently had to be getting from Tavita Nusa, who, by the way, has lost his badge, is no longer in the Army, which is, it seems like they're all out of there. Even Judge Robert Shook, as soon as we wrote consistently for an open records request about our own case, including our son's case, about our own probable cause affidavit for a search warrant for our house using a fugitive apprehension unit, which is an assault unit on our house, and not providing a warrant. We found out that there's no warrant. Uh, this is, like I said, has so many fronts to it that we thank you for sticking with us. But this has um, morphed into not just our son's case, right? It's our case also, and so now it's touching every area of Fort Bliss, and I'm sure that spills out into El Paso. I'm sure it does, right? Because we just got information about the Shadow Mountain Lakes, or is it Mountain Shadow Lakes? Um, the Patriot Mountain Shadow Lakes with Tony Lang. We've reached out to Tony Lang on this live stream and said, please contact us. Maybe you know something. Maybe you know Jay Paulin. Maybe you know Jakovitz. Maybe you know Ruggiero, right? Maybe you know these NCOs, and you have information about a missing veteran, a missing soldier, and um, from the videos that we watched, from the information that we watched, which is, if they badly used Shadow Mountain Lakes to dispose of Richard's personal items, then maybe there were rumors. Maybe he heard something that can be in addition to what we are hearing, what the information that we're getting back. So it's spilling out into El Paso, what's going on at Fort Bliss, the what's going on at the VA, what's going on at the CID, what's going on at Park University. And that's why Major General Eisenhower needs to know that he was conned, right? That he was conned, and we appreciate his help, and we're so glad that he contacted us today. Um, and this is another aspect or another positive note about institutional help, institutional support. And we're giving him the evidence, you see, and then you get accountability. And that evidence is that Leilani Hart is a convicted criminal, has a long history of cases and complaints about her harassment. And we know we have been harassed. We know that, there's been a group of people that have done everything they can to followers. And watch out, when you're following us, you might get a call and they might say, oh, that Halliday family, they're hiding their son or something. That it's not the case. We're at over 3 years. We have uncovered so much, from the canines to the military police to Anthony Swafford, right? We put in a criminal complaint against him because of the guard mount. He's telling, don't look for Richard. He's and conducting a smear campaign on him, which is, who are these people? This is a missing soldier, right? You go to the guard mount, you go to the military police guard mount, and you're talking to the military police that are on shift, and you say, we have a missing soldier. This is what he looks like. This is where he was last seen. This is what he was wearing. This is where he might be. Da 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 da. That's what you do. You don't conduct a smear campaign and then go on to social media and say, and say, why are you helping this family look for their son? I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. But once you know all the rest of this, once you get to know Leilani Hart, once you get to know what's going on at the VA, once you get to know what's going on at the um, tactical move storage unit, once you know what's going on at Park University, once you know what's going on in CID, once you know what's going on at IG, once you know what's going on at JAG, then you rush to sign the petition of this soldier that was so brave to ask for a congressional inquiry um, through Veronica Escobar. So write her, sign the petition, and I believe we have like 142 signatures at this time. We need a lot more. Also, it was CC to Senator Cruz, because once you realize that this was so out of hand and it was touching so many service members, it becomes very clear that it wasn't just Richard Halliday. So many of our service members have been retaliated against, have suffered under this grip that Leilani Hart has had over Fort Bliss. Please God, let it not be renamed to Fort Hart, right? So, and why is she so important? And everyone knows we have a good reason, because we're being denied due process. Our son's case, our case, is being obstructed because of Leilani Hart's, I would have to say, criminal connections. And that would have to, at this point, knowing what we know and getting no response back from Miss Angela Kucherga, getting no response back from Bob Moore, getting no response back from KTEP or El Paso Matters for what they've done in interfering with our son's case, not issuing any kind of apology, not even featuring a little snippet about Find Richard Halliday, and yet creating a big article and leaving it there on Leilani Hart's lies, on false testimony to authorities, false testimony to a media platform that forgot, overlooked, was negligent in their duty to do a basic background check. Because, when you are an investigative reporter, you have those tools, especially when you're funded, right? And you have a tax-free status. You have the means to do a basic background check, right? And they didn't. They failed. And they could have talked to the victims like we've talked to the victims of Leilani Hart's harassment, of her absolutely relentless pursuit to destroy people that she had a beef against. And, that's unacceptable. I mean, to even go against her restraining order, to even talk back to a judge, to talk to the bailiff, to conduct herself in court in an unprofessional, um, just in a shocking way. And this is years of harassment. It goes back to the 1990s. And she was convicted of lying to law enforcement authorities and then breaking what the judge is like, you need to get a mental screening, right? So the judge is saying she's not mentally there. There's doubts. There's doubts to the way she judges things, right? Her judgment is off. Her judgment has been impaired by something. And yet, she is controlling the JAG on Fort Bliss to unjustly block a key witness in our son's case that happens to be an officer of the court that absolutely has a right to defend himself but was denied that, has a right to be notified but was denied that, has a right to be investigated, but this banning, this block is without a packet. How do we know that? That there was no investigation into it and that they went to extra means to block him, to, unjustly. How do we know? Because the chief of security of El Paso said so in a letter, said so, that the JAG was operating outside of the law. And this is hindering our pursuit for justice for our son, to get to the bottom of what happened to Richard. And it is getting more and more nefarious as we go. And with that, people are starting to get a bitter taste that have positions in the institutions. And because they're starting to get a very bitter taste, they're starting to shift their support. They're starting to look into what's going on. It's like an epiphany. An epiphany is going on, and they're starting to realize, wait a minute. It is true. It is true that this woman, Leilani Hart, whatever her name is, Iolanthia, Lolanthia, Lorian, and her last name and where she belongs to and whatever, that, she has a questionable immigration status. She has a questionable identity. She has a criminal history. She is a convicted criminal. She has a lot of people filing harassment claims against her. So wait a minute. Maybe we need to look into her. And so we did get confirmation that she's being looked into. And maybe her judgment has, she tends to lie. Okay? She tends to lie. And now, this is something that Major General Eisenhower needs to look into. Because, and I think he is, because he wrote us today, and he said he's throwing some things over. He is corroborating that he's working with CID on all of this. So that is good news. So he has also, so we're getting institutional support to look into Park University. We're getting institutional support to look into the VA. We're getting institutional support to look into this whole issue of banning a key witness in Richard Halliday's case that is blocking us from moving forward to getting the answers about these arrests in July 2020. But you see, the leaks, lies aren't sustainable. And so when they're leaking and leaking and leaking and they're lying and lying and lying, um, it gets back and that intel comes back to us. Um, the other the other thing is how do you reconcile the fact that Leilani Hart lies to authorities and manipulates authorities and has a very good reason because of her connection with CID, because of her connection with the chief of security of Fort Bliss, that was also a professor at Park University, and she's a student at Park University. Things are, yeah, very questionable there. Um, because of all that going on, we need to get on to Fort Bliss to see what's going on with these arrests because this is military, right? Um, let's see. Questions are popping up. Thank you, Anicia. Thank you, Danielle. Does she have battered woman syndrome? Possibly. Well, she did. This is why I wanted to talk about the reconciling her notarized criminal complaint affidavit. She notarized it. The CID accepted it. The FBI accepted it. She was not arrested. She was not arrested. So, was this an attempt? It's like a cry for the wolf, cry for wolf, cry for wolf. She's lying, she's lying, she's lying. We absolutely know that she lied in the article with El Paso Matters. We absolutely know that she is lying with the judge, the JAG, right? That whole JAG that they didn't even do an investigation. They didn't even do a notification. They didn't even um, let our key witness defend himself. So we know that that's all a lie. But what's going on? How do you reconcile that with the notarized criminal complaint affidavit about the incest, about the child pornography, about the sexual abuse, about the purchasing of illegal weapons, about the threats, I could just put a gun to your head in the middle of the night and there you would go and you'd never wake up and it's as easy as that, things like that. Um, just a lot of those statements in there, and then there's more because of connecting it with the VA and infidelity because they're in a divorce and um you know what is true in that, because she was never arrested, she was never charged, because that would, so did she was the wolf actually there then? And if I was Dallas Hart and I talked to Dallas Hart and he threw his mother under the bus, did he not want to charge her for claiming what she claimed? I mean, a 7-year-old being sexually assaulted in her master bedroom by multiple members of the household. I mean, he doesn't want to clear his name on that one. I, it's the other agents should have followed up with the sworn affidavit. Absolutely. And I called James Hart and he said, "Oh, CID, they called me up to tell me I'm cleared." What? What that told me now, at that point, it was confusing. But when you're fighting for justice and you're the chief investigator as part of Team Find Richard Halliday, and you're doing this daily, 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 and you're the media and you're, trying to juggle all of this, you're also getting a degree. You're figuring out how the system works. And what that tells me now is that he had a personal relationship with CID, right? Because who in the world is going to call, a CID agent's going to call and say, hey, Will, we looked at this and we cleared you. No one says that. They don't call you and say that unless you have some kind of personal relationship with CID, you know? So, and, that's why we put in those criminal complaints, because it just, then why wasn't she arrested? Because that is an arrestable document. Somebody had to be arrested for that. And, it just didn't make sense to us. And it's very important to this case. It's not that I'm elaborating on it for nothing, for just to be mean. It's because it's part of our son's file, right? It's part of our son's file. And so what did he have to do with the CID office? And, that's what we're looking into, because our intel is telling us that he was a CID intern with Park University. And so, he took criminology, and we didn't put that, because that was the end of 2018. And then, of course, he was deployed, and, then coming back, the 180, we didn't think it was relevant to his disappearance, that Park University wasn't relevant, but it is. It's relevant. And the fact that Park University hasn't addressed this speaks volumes too, right? They should be on this for the sake of every service member. And that's why when you hear about all of this, when you hear about the MPs, when you hear about CID, when you hear about the IG, I haven't even got into that too much. Just real quick, remember that Lieutenant General Donna Martin is in charge of IG right now, right? She was CID, now she's IG. The lady that came to the fake stage Task Force Find Richard Halliday meeting out of uniform, put a chair in the middle of the room, led the meeting out of uniform without an op board, and sat like an Indian and said, well, I want to hear about Richard. Yeah, she's in charge of IG. It's, I think we have a problem with unqualified people being in situation or being in positions that they can't maneuver in, that they're not qualified for. They are not qualified to be in these positions. That's, and you say, Pat, you can't say that because you need her help in the IG. Yeah, I do need her help. And we're getting institutional support and we're giving them the evidence. But you see, by playing their game all the time, they can just wind you up and make you like a hamster going around and around in that wheel. And what we've had to do is get real evidence, because you see, I love math. You have institutional support plus evidence equals the accountability, right? What comes first, the institutional support or the evidence? Does the evidence come first and then the institutional support? You can do that too. So we have been gathering evidence after evidence after evidence, and this the institutional support will join us there, and we'll get the same result, the accountability. That's the beauty of math. You can do 1 plus 2 equals 3 or 2 plus 1 equals 3, and you're still going to get the accountability. And so we're, just giving them everything we have, evidence after evidence after evidence. And, you know, um, so I don't know how Major General Eisenhower is doing. And so to me right now, we need media to call him up and inquire, how are you doing with this? How are you doing? There is so much evidence that Leilani Hart is not credible. And all of the service members know it. They know it. They're watching you. They're watching Major General Eisenhower right now, from a private all the way up. They're watching. And every last one of them can understand that Leilani Hart is not credible. If she makes accusations, but she didn't call the police, she didn't even call a friend, she has no forensic evidence to support her claims, and then she has a long history of harassment and lying to law enforcement authorities, what's JAG waiting on? What's Major General Eisenhower waiting on? Haven't they finally decided to give a notification out? Haven't they decided to let our key witness have a chance to defend himself? Have some due process? Isn't there going to be a packet? Aren't they going to abide by the law? They're JAG. They can't work outside of the law. But you see, this is what we're pointing out, and I'll point out real quick this here, how they're just working outside of the law. This was an article that, thank you so much, Team Find Richard Halliday, for sending me this. And it's really well worth. This is from El Paso Inc. The Price of Justice. How much will Walmart gunman defense cost? And the shocking thing about this article is it really reveals that, there's like some kind of gravy train going on, right? A gravy train, because Joe Spencer, this is Joe Spencer, he is, he's the prosecutor, right? And he's not telling the taxpayer how many people, right? How many people that they're using to pay for, and how much they're paying. And how much they're paying. And to just be that brazen about it. I don't know if we, as taxpayers, and I'm not in the El Paso area, but I don't think that the taxpayers there in El Paso want to be milked for this terrible killing, but on and on and on and on, and make one huge injustice into another huge injustice, right? Patrick Crucius, injustice in the murder of these people at Walmart, But then now you have the institution creating another injustice by not giving a swift uh, hearing to save the taxpayers' money, right? Because I mean, they have everything. They have all the forensics. They have all they have the videos. They have everything. Why are they holding back how much they're spending on this? And that's this article is just a wowzer, and I hope that you read it, because it really tells you what's going on in Richard's case. Because we've asked Ms. Schnotty, who we have been contacted by multiple times, for the numbers of the costs of our son's case. And we want to get it verified that they have been spending upwards over, I mean, we're talking in safe $6 million. It's some of the numbers we're hearing is over $9 million. And what do we have to show for that? We want to know where it went to, what it was spent on. Was it spent on a cover up? And this is why it's so important for our key witness to have the ban lifted on him, being an officer of the court, having the retaliation lifted from him that was unjust, so that he can help us. I remember Miss Kacherga saying, "Is he helping you?" Because what they wanted to do is to block help to a missing soldier's investigation. Can you believe it? That's what they wanted. That's how sick this is. That's how huge this case is. That even Angela Kacherga, in my opinion, by her discussion that I had with her, her aim was to block and prevent due process and justice in the case of a missing soldier from Fort Bliss, our son. Now, if that doesn't, and she's supposed to be neutral. El Paso Matters is supposed to be neutral. Please write them. Please write the IRS. Please write the FCC. Because that's exactly what happened there. And that's why we're asking everyone, and right now, reporters, to write Major General Eisenhower. And it's working, okay? It's working because he contacted us today. So it's working. We got his attention. And so if you haven't written him, or if you have, write him again. First thing tomorrow, we're sending him another email. Write him again, because it's working. And sometimes it just takes, that squeaky wheel, or that widow that is bugging the unjust judge, the stars in their course that fought against Sisera. Some way, somehow, this is all working. And, this is a mistake we made with Brigadier General David Stewart. We thought in our first meeting when we went there that he would be briefed properly. We thought he would be briefed properly, that he would know this case. And he didn't. He did not know this case, okay? He did not. And I don't even think he is briefed properly right now. And of course, he has left. But I don't think he's briefed properly. I don't think he was ever briefed properly. And that's why um, we're we are very patient with what's going on with Major General Eisenhower, because I mean, how much more does it take, right? How much more does it take? All he has to do is ask his staff to do a simple background check, a basic background check on the Lonnie Hart, right? And that will be enough for him to lift the ban. He can also go to Find Richard Halliday, where I have posted up the article from El Paso Matters that I dissected. We dissected it at home, took it apart to scrutinize it, right? And let me tell you, Lilani Hart came up wanting. There was nothing in there to prove anything of her allegations. And I posted the article and how it was scrutinized. Um, Major General Eisenhower, matter of fact, I probably should send him that. Matter of fact, I will. I think I sent it to, who did I send it? Well, I will. I will send it to him. I will send it to him again to remind him if I did send it, but I know I posted it. I have it. And I think that that is really important. With your letters, that would be even better. Even better. He needs to know what the El Paso community, what the Fort Bliss community knows. And from what we have heard, Lilani Hart turned Hawaii into chaos, turned that post into chaos. They had to move her around everywhere. All right. And she was active duty at the time, active duty, harassing people, becoming a convicted criminal. It all happened while she was on active duty. So I think a simple background check, a few simple phone calls. I'm sure that these service members, because these were service members too, all right? So she's harassing service members. And how are you Army ready? How can you be a fighting force if you have no esprit de corps? When there's just chaos, when there's no, I've got your six, right? When there's no leave no soldier behind, when there's no army of one. Why do you think we have those slogans? Because that's what it takes to have an efficient fighting force. And nothing is better than a fighting force that loves their home, that loves their home, loves their people. There's no better fighting force. And Team Find Richard Halliday, we love Richard. And so I believe that the patience, the resilience, because we've been put through hell, y'all, is a testimony to how much we love him, God's grace, God's faithfulness to keep us going, to uncover on our own, practically on our own with Team Find Richard Halliday, so much evidence so that we can get finally the institutional support so that we can get the accountability. I hope that makes sense. But that's what's been happening. It's not like we thought at the beginning that we would just get the institutional support and they would get the evidence to get the accountability. That's not how it went. And we got a good education out of this. You've got to have the evidence, and We've got it. We've got it piled high. And I've released today um, some breaking news that we want clarification on, and that is, does Amber Chase work right there in the same office, or maybe in the next office, or right there in the same section, or whatever, in the VA with James Hart? That's that explains a lot, and we need some clarification on that because that's what our intel is telling us. And so I didn't receive any phone messages. I know the other day, um, that was very quick action to get a phone message. But today, with what I posted, there wasn't any. And yeah, I think that is really telling. We'll see. We'll see. The other agencies should have followed up with a sworn affidavit. Yep, absolutely. So let me look at my notes real quick. Oh yes, we've. It's been such a busy day. Um, we have. Let's see. I wrote it down. What? Oh yeah, we've identified the location for the van. This is a 2004 Pontiac Montana. It's white. It has OnStar, which means it has GPS data, and we have um, identified the location of the van. Okay, that's huge. Matter of fact, I should say it one more time. Breaking news. We have identified the location of the 2004 Pontiac Montana. That is very important in this case. It has OnStar. It's a minivan. It's white, and its license plate begins with CH. And we have identified the location. So that's really breaking news. It was worth saying twice. The other breaking news is that the Van Buren house, and I want to say more. I want to say more. But I will say this, that the system was tampered with for that house. But we broke the system. The system was tampered with. So we didn't break the system. I'm saying it was tampered with, and but there's always intel somewhere, somehow. God always brings a little light somehow. So I hope I make sense there. The Van Buren Avenue house is also very important, and that is that's been tampered with. The system to give information about that home has been tampered with, and I hope that makes sense. So let me institutional help and Leilani Hart and the IG and Major General Eisenhower. That can lift this ban, that we can get answers. This is a national security issue. It's so big. That's why our soldiers were shaking. That's why they were so much PTSD. The Army has one failed program after the next. And that's why we need to work backwards. We need to support our service members in ways that we've never have before. And that's why we need to be a hedge around this very brave soldier that requested the congressional. That's very important. That's why we need to write Veronica Escobar to support this inquiry. That's why we need to write Senator Ted Cruz to support this inquiry. We need to really be a hedge around our soldiers, because the Army has one failed program after the next. The CID has failed. The suicide program has failed. The sexual harassment, sexual assault program has failed. And our soldiers don't have that esprit de corps feeling, because they're not getting justice. The JAG is blocking the justice of a missing soldier because of a convicted criminal that has a history of harassment. And, confessed to felony crimes. So that's why we're burning the midnight oil. Thank you, everyone, so much. Thank you, Anicia. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Grace, because it's your prayers and it's your help that will help our service members, help our country, help get us justice for our son. And, who knows, if you haven't watched iPencil, it's still on YouTube. Just put in iPencil. We don't always see the ramifications of the little things that we do. And being a hedge around this soldier to get a congressional inquiry, to write Major General Eisenhower to lift the ban to get justice for Richard, to participate in ways that we've never participated in the past, in the recent past, because we've always just trusted our institutions. We've just thought, assumed they were benevolent, right? But no, you can't do that anymore. You can't do that anymore. We have to take an active role. And so we're very appreciative for all your help. And I think that we will get accountability. Okay, everyone, thank you so much. God bless you. And we will be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye-bye.